Overall, you tend to get good social benefits, generous amount of holiday days. However, it can be quite challenging to find the right opportunity. And there are probably easier places in the world to go where you can set up and start a business without some of the challenges that you'd face in Spain. If you're living in Spain currently or you're looking to move to Spain, you might be thinking about professional opportunities if you plan on working there. So in this video, I'm going to compare the differences between working for a company, so working as an employee of a company, or setting up as a self-employed person, or also known as an autónomo in Spain. And in doing so, we'll look at the pros and the cons of each approach, and hopefully it will help you to decide if there's an option that you prefer over the other. So let's get right into the video. So I can speak to both of these situations, as I am currently what is known in Spanish as pluriactivo, which is I am working for a company as an employee, but as part of doing my YouTube stuff, I'm also signed up as an autónomo. So I essentially see both sides, and I think I can give a fairly accurate comparison of both. So let's get right into it. So let's start by looking at what life is like for a salaried worker. This is known in Spanish as trabajo por cuenta ajena, which is working for somebody else, essentially. That's what it means. And so thinking about the good things of being an employee in Spain is kind of, the obvious ones. You've got a stable pay that comes in every month that will get paid into your bank account every month. One thing that's worth noting here in Spain is that it's very common to have 14 pays, as they're known. So what will often happen is you'll be given an annual salary when you work for a company in Spain, and that will be divided by 14. And so at the end of every month, you will get paid. And then in the months of July and December, typically, you will get your 13th and 14th pay. This is something that's been done traditionally over the past, an additional pay for the holiday season over the summer, and an additional pay just before Christmas. Overall, you tend to get good social benefits as well if you're working for an employer. So when that comes to unemployment, your social security is paid for, so that gives you access to the health system. After a year of working, you do get access to unemployment benefits, which I think is about 80% of your salary if you're laid off for whatever reason. You also get a generous amount of holiday days that can be anywhere between 20 to 30 days a year, depending on the company. So it's quite a nice benefit to have as well if you're a salaried worker. And if you have a permanent contract, what's known as a contrato indefinido in Spain, it's a very valuable thing to have, particularly if you're looking for credit. So if you're taking out a credit card for whatever reason, or if you're looking to get a mortgage, then having a long-term permanent contract for an employer in Spain is very favorably looked upon. However, it can be quite challenging to find the right opportunity in Spain, as the country is one of the highest rates of unemployment in the European Union. This also depends on where you're coming from. So if you're coming from an EU country, yes, you have the right to live and work in Spain, but you will need a certain level of Spanish probably if you want to be a competitive applicant in the job selection process. If you're coming from outside the EU, then of course it's a much more competitive process, because an employer would have to prove that they can't find a suitable EU candidate before selecting you. And then there would of course be the visa process and sponsorship that would be required as well. So it's a bit more challenging if you're coming from outside the EU. And those permanent contracts that I mentioned before, they're quite tough to find, particularly for young people. Spain has in the past had a problem with what's known as precariedad, which is essentially the rotation of constant temporary contracts, whether in one employer or moving between employers. But it's been very difficult in the past, particularly for young people, to find those permanent contracts that will give them that stability over the long term. As I say, this has been a long ongoing problem, and the current government has put some measures in place to try and incentivize permanent contract hiring of workers in general, particularly younger workers who struggle with this. So we'll see how this situation changes over time. And something else that you'll probably find in Spain is that the average salaries are a lot lower than across other countries in the EU. Now, of course, that comes with a lower cost of living, but the relation when you look at the cost of living versus the average salaries is still quite tight. So depending on your job, your profession, which sector you're in, which company you work for, that can have an impact on that, and you may find that it can be quite tight from a living perspective, particularly if you're living in a big city like Madrid or Barcelona. So what about being self-employed? What about being an Autónomo? So obviously this comes with the freedom of you are your own boss, you can set your own hours, you can do what you want, and you have unlimited earning capacity if you have a scalable business. You've also got the advantage of having deductible expenses. So any expenses that are directly related to your business can be deducted to give you tax relief on your profit. And if you work from home and depending on your activity, you can also deduct, for example, your electricity bill, your water bill, your phone and internet bill, proportional to the space that your activity takes up. So essentially kind of your office space as a percentage of your overall apartment. But again, what you're able to deduct and how much you're able to deduct will very much depend on what your activity as an Autónomo is. And Autónomos are entitled to certain financial aid, one of the big ones recently being the digital kit or the kit digital. So this is part of the next generation EU funds that the government has assigned to try and boost and encourage entrepreneurship and business and starting up businesses in Spain. So if you're an Autónomo and you need to digitalize part of your business, for example, you need a website or social media presence, stuff like this, you can put in an application for up to 2,000 euros of financial aid to help you with that through the digital kit. However, being an Autónomo does of course come with its challenges, and if we think about who can be an Autónomo, so anyone from the EU of course can move to Spain and be an Autónomo. If you're coming from outside of the EU, then this may be an option to get into Spain. However, if you're setting up a business, then you will need to come with a business plan as part of your visa application, and that will need to be kind of approved in order for you to get your visa. What you might want to consider if you are looking to move to Spain as kind of a self-employed or freelance person is that you might want to consider the Digital Nomad Visa that we're still waiting full details on, but is expected to be announced and passed through the Spanish Parliament towards the end of this year. As an Autónomo, you'll need to stay on top of your quarterly tax declarations for your income and expenses, and also things like VAT, and any inter-community operations. So that's if you're based in Spain and you do business with someone who's in another EU country, then you'll need to declare all of this on a quarterly basis, and that can be quite tricky to stay on top of. Luckily, there are a lot of platforms out there that can help you with this. One of the platforms I use is Declarando. It's an online software that helps you keep track of relevant income and expenses, and you've also got the support of various tax advisors to help you with specific queries as well. I'll leave my sign up link in the video description for if you're interested in that. I've been with Declarando for a year and they've been very, very helpful with various queries that I've had, and they've helped me stay on top of my tax declarations from my YouTube income and activity as well. Another disadvantage of being an Autónomo is, how should I say this, in the pecking order, Autónomos are quite low down if we think about it. What I'm trying to say here is that when you think about other types of workers in the country, such as a funcionario working as a civil servant is almost like the gold standard in Spain, because it's kind of like a job for life, and very good benefits and pension. And you got your full-time workers who probably make up the vast majority of the workforce in Spain, and then you got Autónomos, kind of, which make up a smaller percentage of the population. So when it comes to a situation of crisis, and when it comes to labor law and all these kind of things, the former two groups tend to take priority, it seems, over Autónomos. So what it seems to be, from my own view and probably from the view of others as well, is that Autónomos aren't as looked after, or people don't look out for them as much as they maybe look out for other groups of workers in Spain. And then the last point on this list is that it is expensive to be an Autónomo. So it's not like in the UK where you can just start your activity and that's it. No. When you're an Autónomo in Spain, you need to register with the Social Security, and you need to pay Social Security contributions from that very first month. Now, at the moment, the current monthly tariff is around about 285 euros a month, which is very, very expensive. However, there is a system called the Tarifa Plana, which gives you a reduction for the first few years. So starting at about 60 euros for the first year, and then gradually work your way up to that 285 per month over those years. As of 2023, there is a new progressive quota system coming in. I'll put that on the screen so that you have an idea of what it looks like. And even though the monthly amount does come down for the lower income earners, that does still make up a pretty significant percentage of your revenue. So if we take the bottom bracket, for example, then if you're at the very top of that, so you're earning about 600 to 700 euros a month, then you're still giving about a third of your income that you make on a month to the social security, and that's before income tax is applied on your profit. So being an autonomo is quite expensive, and to really make the most out of it, you do need to kind of make a lot of money as an autonomo. And of course, there's no guarantees of success either. With regards to these monthly tariffs, however, a couple of autonomous communities such as Madrid, such as Murcia, and such as Andalusia have brought out some propositions to have a tarifa cero, so a zero quota for the first year, starting in 2023, with the idea that this will still encourage entrepreneurship and encourage people to start up businesses in those regions. So having seen both sides of the table, if I was to give my take, then it very much depends on what you want. For example, if you really want to live in Spain and you want to live here for a few years, or you want to live here over the long term, and you just want, an easy, stable life, and you want to enjoy life in Spain, then probably, working for a company is an easier option for you. That said, of course, entrepreneurship is really exciting, and if you really want to move to Spain and you've got, a freelance business, or you've got your own activity, and Spain is really where you want to be, then that could be a way into the country for you, particularly, if you're coming from outside the EU. And you've got a solid business plan, or you want to wait it out a couple of months and then get the Digital Nomad Visa, then that could be an option for you. But to be honest, if we take living in Spain out of the equation and, we look at it from a location independent perspective, this self-employed or freelance thing, then there are probably easier places in the world to go where you can set up and start a business without some of the challenges that you'd face in Spain, at least for the time being. Anyways, I hope you found this video helpful, guys. Leave a comment and let me know, what would you do in your situation if you were moving to Spain and looking for professional opportunities. So I'll see you in the next one, guys. Take care, and let's get this money.